issue of sustainable development, species deforestation, and in a way this serves the UN purposes much better, because instead of just focusing on the atmosphere and industry, now they can control the oceans, now they can control roadways, land use, agriculture, you name it. Under that rubric of sustainable development, they can cover it all. And we cannot ever forget that it was Republican presidents who got us into this. The first George H.W. Bush in 1992 went to the first Earth Summit and committed the United States to these United Nations treaties, which then led to Kyoto, which then led the second George Bush, sent Colin Powell to the Earth Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa, which I was at. The Bush family has done more to commit the United States to environmental and United Nations lunacy than all the Democrats combined. And we have to look at our two top nominees, and we have to get terrified. Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich are incapable of standing up to the United Nations, of standing up to the International Green Movement. Mitt Romney, who had John Holdren as an advisor, is clueless. Newt Gingrich, who has a new book coming out next year, has a climatologist named Catherine Hayhoe, who is a committed and embarrassing global warming alarmist. Don't be fooled for a moment by Newt Gingrich's recent sounding of skepticism. Neither of these candidates are equipped to handle this, and it will be nothing more than a continuation of the disastrous policies of Bush 1 and Bush 2 if either of these Republicans get in.
Well, it's good to see you fired up, and I've never seen you quite like this. Certainly, you can smell blood with these fraudsters. Of course, it was at the Rio de Janeiro conference, as you know, it was at 92, where Maurice Strong publicly said, we're going to have a post-industrial world. We are going to shut down the United States. We are basically going to carry all of this out. And that is exactly what they were basically able to do. So looking at this, I wanted to bring up a couple of positive points that I've seen here in the U.S., and that is the EPA on its own came out and said we're going to shut down most of the coal power plants, of course, those that aren't owned by insiders like General Electric. Obama's had to back off on declaring carbon dioxide, at least from those, as deadly nerve gas poison that plants breathe, but still he's moving ahead with some of the shutdowns. And, of course, you know, the EPA was going to declare hay dust and any type of dirt or dust on your farm as $10,000 fines, first offense. Just a total way to shut down small farmers and ranchers. The House passed by a giant margin today. The Hill newspaper is reporting that they're not going to do that. I mean, this is clearly just a way for this government mafia to make breathing evil, dust on a farm evil. I mean, it is so incredible. But more and more people are realizing that this is a selective economic warfare attack by people that have said they want a post-industrial world and who've always hated the free market and capitalism.
Yeah, this is death by bureaucratic bean counters. They've gone after our ice makers on our refrigerators. They've gone after our dishwashers. Our dishwashing liquid now has to be green and therefore not cleaning. They've gone after the washing machines. They've sapped the water and the power. They've gone after our toilets, our shower heads. The Japanese government's telling the citizens they have to go to bed early to prevent global warming. The UN chief has said people can't order ice water in restaurants because of the carbon footprint. This is a level of control that George Orwell didn't contemplate. He who controls carbon controls life, and I will add to that with the Rio Earth Summit coming up. He who controls carbon and controls land use policy and even the oceans controls the world, and that's what they're going for. And this isn't conspiracy talk. This is in their documents. We're looking at this document. One of the most hilarious things about this 138-page document that Lord Monckton wrote about was they want to stop wars, not because wars are bad for people, not because wars are bloody, but they want to stop it because of wars' impact on the atmosphere. In other words, the greatest reason not to fight a war is concern over climate change and global warming. This is the level of absurdity we've reached.
All right, we're getting a bit of a Skype breakup there from Durban, South Africa, but that's okay. It's great to even have your audio. It's kind of like an old Star Trek episode where we're talking to you from 20 light years away, and it's breaking up a piece a bit. Going from memory, they're going to pull it up, and we might even cut the video in. A few months ago, we went to one of the smart growth conferences here in town, and they had, I think the head of the Nature Conservancy was there, and Mark Tursick, head of the Nature Conservancy, and they went up to him and said, we'd like to speak to you about coal, because they were there saying shut down coal. And when they brought up, hey, well, Obama said, in that video clip that he wanted to bankrupt coal. What's your view on that? And he said, whoa, I'm not talking to you, interview over, and ran off like he was a vampire confronted with a giant silver cross. I mean, used to these people would get on the offensive if you got on the offensive. Now they just turn tail and run, and more and more they don't have that crazed, power-seizing look in their eyes. They're trying to regroup, as you said, and move on to...
Yes, I mean, major environmental and climate organizations are shutting their doors. They're firing staffers. Climate stock exchanges are collapsing. This was truly subprime science, subprime economics, subprime politics. But we can never count them out because there's never any previous environmental scare that had this kind of funding, backing of the UN, or backing of the media. It's unprecedented. So it doesn't just die. And the head of the UN, Rajendra Pachauri, of the climate panel, is on record as saying global warming is but a symptom of a larger problem. And that larger problem is sustainable development and species extinction. They're already on record as doing the great shift. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to regroup. Climate's not going to go away, but it's going to be part of a larger picture where they're going to go after every conceivable way that human beings interact. And as the former co-founder of Greenpeace, Patrick Morris, said, the modern environmental movement today is the most anti-human agenda that we have. We have, at the UN conference, they had torches, solar torches they were trying to peddle for sub-Saharan Africa. People living in huts made of dung aren't offered coal-fired power plants, which Obama and other environmentalists prevent, but they're offered solar torches to read by at night. This is the perverse way, and there are actually people like Governor Brown in California who believe the developing world can't develop. The environmentalists tell them they can't have what we have. Darn, they missed it, but we've already raped the earth, and they can't rape it either. They can't make it.
Well, look, you've been studying this as long as I have, but I've read all their literature. We've got hundreds of their books that I've read, Aaron Dykes has read here in our office in the last decade. I've made films on it. The lower level people mean well or useful idiots like supporters of Lenin and Stalin or Hitler. But at the higher levels, they say, look, there are too many people. We're going to get rid of these brown scum. Margaret Sanger said, we got to hire blacks as our front so we can kill these weeds. Well, we'll say we're liberal. We, the American Nazis, in their words, have to pose as liberal to get away with this and not let them know that. And that's what it is. It's a death sentence. At the higher levels, it's about, and they say it, blocking the third world from developing, which, by the way, actually makes people have less children, but they don't care. It's just about cold-bloodedly blocking their development. And so at the top, from my research, these are knowingly extremely virulent, racist people. Look at Obama, increasing the funding for abortions in Africa. These are very, very sick people. From your research, have you found parallels to that, or do you disagree?
No, absolutely. In fact, Obama's science advisor, John Holdren, has actually said, first of all, cheap energy is one of the hazards of a free society. And secondly, and most shockingly, he's on record. We dug up old newspaper clippings from the early 1970s that aren't available on LexisNexis or Google. And that John Holdren was vociferously opposing the agricultural revolution of Norman Borlaug that brought agricultural and ended famine throughout Asia in the late 1960s, 1970s. John Holdren opposed it because he didn't want the earth to be able to sustain that many extra people. Here was a classic example. When confronted in life, you have a choice. John Holdren chose death. John Holdren chose anti-technology. Norman Borlaug went on to win the Nobel Prize. It was one of the most celebrated scientists of our age, a man who probably saved hundreds of millions of people from starvation. And he just died a few years ago. He was also a global warming skeptic. But Norman Borlaug was a hero. John Holdren was a eugenicist who now is feted by the mainstream media and Obama. So it's exactly what is going on, and these people are in high office right now.
Unbelievable. But we are seeing the mainstream media's decline right along with government's approval rating, right along with the climate panic pushers. I mean, certainly their fleeing forward, I think, is only going to destroy them in the end. In closing, tell us some of the key things we should look at in this latest power grab where they cast themselves as saviors of the earth, when in truth they're eugenicists cutting off the power supplies and conscripting many people to... Yeah.
I think the biggest thing coming out of this conference is this now. They're itching to get this international climate court set up. And this court, if they succeed in doing this, it's going to be, as Lord Monckton said, a kangaroo court. But think about it. They've already got set up the mechanisms. In England, they already have government officials monitoring employees. They're proposing carbon ration cards. Your home energy use, your car mileage, your train travel, your airline travel. The German climate advisor, a man named Schulenhuber, wants a CO2 budget for every man, woman, and child on the planet from Beijing to Berlin. So all we have to do is the UN Climate Court will then monitor all these things. Nancy Pelosi went to China and said, we need a complete inventory on every aspect of our lives in order to fight global warming. Well, those inventories they're talking about, and they're doing this now, the EPA is trying to do it with industry, carbon emissions. They're trying everything's got to be, we're seeing this in South Africa, some of the industries are actually giving them the rope to hang themselves with and doing voluntary reporting on their CO2 emissions.
Oh, I know. People put these carbon indulgent stickers on their cars. I give Al Gore money. I'm allowed to drive. I'm loving. I'm good. I mean, they're just total useful idiots. And as this continues, Mark, it's just so frightening to see these criminals casting themselves as our saviors. But it's great to hear you reporting that the worm is certainly turning on these guys. People should go read your reports and read the document for themselves, because it just looks like they're going for everything right now in a desperate attempt. I look forward to speaking to you when you get back with your final reports sometime next week. Mark Moreno, thank you so much, and be safe, because these are some very wicked people.
They are. Thank you very much, Alex. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, and say bye to Lord Monckton for me. Okay, well, there goes Mark Moreno, a tireless fighter for freedom. You know, Stalin said 1 man dies, it's a tragedy. 10,000 die, it's a statistic. And these globalist eugenics bureaucrats have already killed tens of millions conservatively. And they know what they're doing, and I've been around them, I've talked to them. They're very sick people. They get off on the power of doing this to people. These are really unhappy, bad people who could care less about the environment. And I mean, they've got to be faced down. And again, it looked like there was no way to stop them. Their stonewall that they were invincible was there. But as people like Mark Moreno, Lord Monckton, and others exposed them, as we exposed them, as Tim Ball exposed them, Dr. Ball, the worm has turned and the pendulum's swinging back. And the problem is these people are going to metastasize. Just like the Eugenics Quarterly changed its name after Hitler here in the U.S., just like Planned Parenthood was pro-Nazi and changed their tactics later, they're going to change their spots, and we've got to be aware of it. Now we're going to go after this break to something special. We're going to talk to the Don of Obama criminal activity, his big economic advisor, the guy that holds $35,000 a plate dinners for him. We're going to talk to Don Corleone, John Corzine, straight ahead. You're not going to want to miss this. It's Infowars Nightly News.
What's up with these sorry politicians? Lots of bark. When it's showtime, whimpering like little shih tzus. You want big cuts. Ron Paul's been screaming it for years. Budget crisis? No problem. Got $1 trillion year one. That's trillion with a T. Department of Education? Gone. Interior, Energy, HUD, Commerce? Gone. Later, bureaucrats. That's how Ron Paul rolls. Want to drain the swamp? Ron Paul. Do it.
I'm Ron Paul, and I approve this message.
If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the Infowars store at Infowars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe Infowars t-shirts. We've got the incredible Pro Pure gravity-fed filters available at Infowars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there. Wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at Infowars.com today. The water filters, the canteens. It's all there. Infowars.com. Welcome back. It's Infowars Nightly News, another marathon transmission. I appreciate you joining us. You are truly revolutionaries in the development of alternative media to counter these criminals. The fact that you care enough to go to prisonplanet.tv, the fact that you care enough to support us, that you spread the word, that is what is making history right now as we reach tens of millions of people a week. Thank you so much. Okay, I've got a few other news items I want to hit before we get to some important film review I'm doing. And then, of course, our interview with Mr. Corzine. Risk of Israel-U.S. strike on Iran has tripled, Barclays claims. This is out of Reuters.